Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Whatever is finally agreed about the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic, it will be the businesses on the ground that will have to make it work. Now, as things stand, they're worried about any prospect of extra regulations and customs checks. Here's our Northern Ireland business correspondent, John Campbell.
There's already a sort of border between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK. All live animals coming in from Great Britain are checked at this inspection post. Under the Prime Minister's plan, these checks would be extended to food and other goods. That's because Northern Ireland would continue to follow the EU standards and rules needed to keep the land border open. The rest of the UK would not. But for businesses like this near the border with the Irish Republic, it's the other part of the plan, to do with customs, that's the big worry. The proposal would mean the whole of the UK leaving the EU's customs union. That inevitably means a new customs border in Ireland. Is this a good deal?
Well, what's a good deal?
With new requirements for cross-border traders.
We would be exporting on a daily basis to the Republic of Ireland, and sometimes we would have orders for the Republic of Ireland which would possibly go to Donegal, then come back in at Strabane. I can't imagine how we're going to be able to put export orders and Northern Ireland orders on the same truck in the future.
The Prime Minister believes the impact of this customs border can be minimised. Instead of customs posts at the frontier, the border would effectively come here to the factory or warehouse. Most customs checks and formalities would take place in the company premises. But even if this can be made to work, it will add cost and complexity to cross-border trade. There are other worries for businesses like this printing firm. Northern Ireland won't automatically follow the EU rules necessary to keep the border open. Instead, the Northern Ireland Assembly at Stormont will have to approve this arrangement every 4 years.
I just don't think that'll be accepted by the European Union at all. Stormont's not a sovereign government, it's a regional government. The European Union only works with sovereign governments. And, we haven't had a Stormont executive for over 1,000 days. They can't decide in very, very small things. How, in God's name, will we ever be able to get them to decide on something as significant as this?
How to solve Northern Ireland's border issue has been the question that's bedevilled this Brexit process. The Prime Minister may think he's found his answer. Much of Northern Ireland business disagrees. John Campbell, BBC News, Londonderry.
Well, let's talk to our Europe editor, Katya Adler. She joins me from Brussels. Katya, just about everybody seems to have had their say already, so what actually happens now?
Well, that's a good question, George, because what it very much looks like is both sides, the EU and the UK, desperately trying to throw the ball into the other one's court, saying it's your turn to compromise. No, it's your turn. So basically, we've had the Prime Minister present the EU with his proposals on how to replace the Irish backstop in a Brexit deal. Now it's your turn to comment and also to compromise, says the Prime Minister. But the EU says, no. We compromised with your predecessor, Theresa May, when we came up with the backstop. If you don't like it, Prime Minister, it's up to you to come up with legally watertight, realistic proposals, not science fiction, as one EU diplomat put it to me this evening. As we speak, George, the Prime Minister's main EU envoy, David Frost, is in a huddle with the EU's chief Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, here in Brussels. Mr. Barnier has a lot of questions for Mr. Frost and has told EU countries, Germany, France and the rest, he'll be in a much better position tomorrow to advise them, after talking to Mr. Frost, whether it's worth pursuing further talks with the United Kingdom. This is a very delicate political dance for both sides. The Prime Minister wants a Brexit deal, yes, but he will also want to avoid making so many compromises he could lose votes in a general election. And the EU wants a deal, but it wants to avoid compromising its principles, leaving the single market exposed and risking abandoning Member State Ireland and risking the Northern Ireland peace process. We have to watch this space.
Katya, thank you very much.
Well, Boris Johnson's plans may have been given a cool reception from Europe and the Irish Taoiseach, but how will the proposed all-Ireland regulatory zone work? Under these proposals, Northern Ireland will remain in the single market and stick to the EU's rules on agriculture, food safety and the sale of industrial goods. But that means there'll be a new border in the Irish Sea, with Great Britain outside EU regulations. The plans would also create a customs border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. The Prime Minister believes setting up trusted trader schemes and exemptions for small businesses would simplify customs procedures. One of the issues causing consternation in Northern Ireland is the plan for checks to take place at other designated locations, which could be located anywhere in Ireland or Northern Ireland. It's not clear yet exactly where those checks would take place. Kieran Jenkins has been speaking to the communities and businesses who could be affected by the plans.
A place that thought they'd done away with borders, contemplating the introduction of not one, but two. The Prime Minister's Brexit plan has been met in Northern Ireland by businesses big and small, with genuine, well-meaning concern for their very survival. Irwin's Bakery produces over 1 million products a week. Brian Irwin speaks up for the food industry here, worth billions to the economy, and he's alarmed. The proposals could mean that bread, buns, the basics face customs tariffs as they cross the border.
Tariffs in our particular category vary between 15 and 25%, depending on the content of the product. Other industries...
so 15 to 25%
tariff.
And that's potentially within the plan that the Prime Minister has currently?
Yes, if we end up outside of the Customs Union without some form of trade agreement, which is yet to be negotiated, that is the default position. The tariffs that could be created if we were left with a WTO-type tariff arrangement would present a wall of cost that many Northern Ireland foods companies could not trade through.
Belfast city centre and outfitters, where they too are jittery about tariffs on clothes they import from the EU, and more tariffs as they sell to the Republic of Ireland, plus massive new bureaucracy and likely costs, proving the country of origin of their products.
Where the wool comes from, where they source their buttons from, where the interfacings, as far as I understand, there will be a whole different strict set of rules on the origin of materials before it is imported into me.
So they're going to have to prove to you where every bit of this suit came from?
As far as I understand, that could be on the cards. And I don't see any positives from that deal. Particularly if we take just this one particular garment, we're going to pay more for it on the way over. We have to charge our customers more for it. We have to do more work to get it here, possibly then more work when it arrives here, and I mean from more work, I mean from the admin perspective. Then we have to sell it at a higher price, and we possibly have to sell it at an even higher price if we send it south of the border.
Bits of the Prime Minister's plans have been broadly welcomed, like the idea of keeping Northern Ireland in large parts of the single market. But that would be subject to a potential veto every 4 years by parties in Northern Ireland's Assembly. Boris Johnson has been asked in the House of Commons if he can think of any Northern Ireland businesses that think his proposals are a good idea. Can you think of many?
Well, I can only speak for our industry, and the proposals as they stand, we've already said they're unworkable. Business needs certainty. Now, we haven't had very much of that over this past 3 years, but what you're talking about here is that every 4 years we would have to have that uncertainty again.
Now, under Boris Johnson's plan, there will be a new customs border here. Whether he's able to make it invisible or not, it will run through people's homes, churches, businesses. In border communities, among the 300 crossing points, they tell you they're on the Brexit front line, and it's about much more than trade.
The most important thing in all of this is about our peace process. If you put a border, whether you put it in someone's mind or you put it in a business, you're saying to people that this island has been detached. That is not a...
Boris Johnson's plans have the DUP's approval, but in a place that voted so clearly to remain, there is much trepidation about all the options ahead.
Kieran Jenkins reporting there.
Well, we heard in Angus's report that request from the Lib Dem leader Joe Swinson for the Prime Minister to head to Northern Ireland's border with the Republic to hear the concerns of the people who live there. Well, we'd had the same idea. So what do they make of Mr Johnson's proposals?
What happens to the border post-Brexit hangs heavily over Newry. On the road from Belfast to Dublin, this is the last stop before the border, but there have been so many possible versions of the near future, it's hard to keep up. Have you heard Boris Johnson's latest plan for Brexit?
Have I heard it? I'm sick listening to it.
Is there going to be a hard border? Is there going to be a soft border? Is there going to be a border? Is the border right in the middle of the water? Where is the border?
And trying to run a business in this environment is especially challenging. The hub offers workspaces and a cafe to local firms.
We're sort of trying to keep up to date as much as we can, but there seems to be changes every day. So it's quite hard.
Very difficult to follow.
Yeah, it's very difficult to follow.
Very difficult to follow. What are your concerns around Brexit? I mean, do you worry about what might happen to the area here?
Well, for us in the cafe, you know, we are a newly open business and we do a lot of trade with businesses down south. So obviously that will affect us.
Business representatives here preferred the old backstop, which gave them access to UK and EU markets.
The proposal we now have means we've got a customs border on one side and we've got a regulatory border on the other. So if you like, we've gone from the best of both worlds to the worst of both worlds.
Back on the high street, there is suspicion about the Prime Minister's motives.
We don't like his proposals at the moment, you know.
Did you hear the ones yesterday?
Yes.
What did you think of them?
He wants a no deal and he knows it's going to fail.
They'll probably reject it and he'd say, I don't know, I could get this, and then the election's coming up.
And you think he's heading for a no-deal Brexit?
I think so.
What would that do to a town like Newry?
Destroy it, I think.
But in the Bridge Bar this evening, opinion was divided on the possibility of a worst-case scenario.
My biggest fear is that we'll end up back at war in Northern Ireland.
You really think that that's the way things could go?
Absolutely.
I think we're much more mature for that in Northern Ireland now than having tensions and going back to the Troubles. Unfortunately,
those days are gone as far as you're concerned?
As far as I'm concerned, those days are certainly gone.
But wherever Brexit is taking them, people in Newry don't feel they can control it any more than they can control the weather. Carl Dinnan, News at 10, Newry.
Now, hundreds of millions of litres of milk cross from Northern Ireland into the Republic each year. But in a no-deal Brexit scenario, this programme has been told some of these products could be at risk of going nowhere. Businesses have been advised that the permits needed for some products could take days to clear. Kieran Jenkins reports now.
To continue sending 800 million litres of milk north to south in Ireland each year. To keep Northern Ireland's 1 billion cross-border food and animal trade going. They need something that seems to contradict Boris Johnson's promise the country is ready for no deal. Northern Ireland would need an army of vets in a no-deal Brexit, and they're a long way short. On day one of a no-deal Brexit, every single batch of this milk going north to south will have to have a certificate signed by a vet.
You've been told by the authorities here that there aren't enough vets to produce all the certificates to keep trade flowing at current levels. What happens if you can't get a certificate for all this milk?
The whole system grinds to a halt very quickly, and not just for dairies, but for beef and for animal, for everything in the system. We're dealing with a fresh product. On the farm, it becomes critical within 12 hours because the farmer can't milk his cows because his tank's full if we can't empty it. If he can't empty his milk tank, he can't milk his cows, or else he lets the milk down the drain. So it becomes a crisis very, very quickly, and I'm not sure that politicians who are making decisions in London have any idea of how crucial this is.
The certificates would prove this milk or whatever animal or animal product is being sold over the border meets EU standards. The process will take 3 days.
The difficulty with that is the milk is still in the cow, so we haven't even collected it on Sunday.
Your milk is still in the animal 3 days before you ship it.
But yeah, of course it is, yeah. We're delivering a fresh product, so...
But you have to apply for the certificate 3 days before you can send it anywhere.
Exactly, that's the conundrum.
Northern Ireland's Department of Agriculture is trying to recruit support staff and add to the hundreds of vets in private practice that can sign export certificates, but also, of course, have a day job. In terms of government-employed vets, 10 more were recruited in Northern Ireland last year, bringing the total to 163. Their present workload means signing off just 18,000 export health certificates a year. But in a no deal, to continue trading with Ireland at current levels, 1.9 million certificates will be required. In Northern Ireland, they reckon they realistically could issue only a fraction of that, 400,000 certificates at best.
This product alone will require a minimum of 3 certificates.
From sandwiches to salads, if it contains a certain amount of animal, no deal Northern Ireland will be calling the vet.
And we look at the salad here, so we have a number of products here. We have chicken, we have cheese, which obviously contains milk, we have eggs. You know, each various component of this will require a separate certificate.
Signed by a vet?
Signed by a veterinary surgeon.
So all these individual components require a separate paper trail?
That's right.
It's just a mad amount of bureaucracy, isn't it, for a salad?
It is very complex, very complex.
Within a few weeks, potentially?
Within a few weeks. The reality is, will these products still be able to move? You know, will vets be able to require, you know, to fulfill the requirement? It's uncertain.
Assuming in no deal, this southbound milk truck did get a certificate, authorities in the north are telling business it should next head to an inspection post across the border in Ireland for checks. If somewhere out there the Irish government does put up what are actually called border inspection posts to check animals and animal products, the fear in these communities is they become a target. That's physical infrastructure, everything all sides say they're against. But if they don't put up border inspection posts, what happens to all that stuff coming from north intended for customers in the south?
The whole system we have here of free movement across the border is so critical, not only to business, but also to people's identity and to people's belief in and comfort with the Good Friday Agreement. And they're trying to run a coach and horses through that, and without any respect for the huge effort that all of us made to get the situation we're in at today.
It's the nightmare scenario for many on this island. No deal actions to protect trade and jobs may also threaten its hard-won peace.
I've been getting away